Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called The Gardens, which is based on a beautiful gardens in Australia. You can see the Sydney Opera House here in the background, and there's even a bit of history if you'd like to read about the gardens in the rule book. But in this game, you're going to be collecting cards, nice quality cards by the way, and placing them into a tableau, a garden in front of you, made up of 24 different spots, and you're going to score points in different ways. Also, you got some visitors in your park that you're going to be moving around to score those points. Here's how it plays. In this game, players are going to be building a garden in front of you. So there's lots of different ways to play the game, but the basic way is to put these two boards together like this, and this in the middle. So you start with part of a garden, and as the game goes by, you're going to be filling in these different spots. So there's going to be 8 rounds in the game as you fill in 24 cards. There are going to be different ways that the cards score, which I have the basic ways shown here. They're the ones I'm going to talk about, but you can change those up if you want to. In each round of the game, you're going to turn over cards from these decks, A, B, and C, basically per the number of players, although in a 2-player game, you'll have 2 cards per player. And then in turn order, each player is going to take one of these cards and put it on their board. So let's say, for example, it's my turn, so I pick a card from the B row, and I'm going to put it here. When it comes back to my next turn, I have to pick A or C, because I've already picked one from B. And so if I pick this C one and put it on my board, then after that I'm going to have to pick A. I have no choice. As you put a card on your board, it has to be next to a card that's already on your board. So you have these starting ones. So I put this one here. The next time I take one, I could put it here or here. And it goes in that exact row, which is pretty easy because the A's have the clouds at the top, the C's have this city buildings on the bottom, and B's have nothing. So you know exactly what row they go in. Once you put a card in a row, you'll take your little meeple dude that's in that row, you move them to that spot, then you lay them down to show that they've gone. And that's a good way to remember what cards you played each round. As they move, there's possibilities of scoring. So in the base game, wherever you move to, so when you move to a tree, so let's say on my next turn I put this here, and I move to that spot. So I'll go from here to here. I went through 1, 2, 3 yellow trees total, which gives me 6 points. 1 point for going through 1 tree, 3 for 2 trees, 6 for 3 trees, 10 for 4 trees. When you go to a fountain, so some of the cards are going to have fountains on them. So this has a fountain on it, for example. When you go to a fountain, you're going to get a point for each stream that you went through. Not the fountain itself, but each stream. So this would just give me a single point here. But the more fountains you go through, the better you'll do. When you go to a bench, you're going to score a point for every card that's around that bench in all the different directions. That's stuff that scores during the game. At the end of the game, you're going to get points for completing streams. So a 2 stream will give you, in the base game, it gives you 2 points. But if you completely finish the stream, you can see a completed stream here, you'll get 5 points. You're also going to get points for your biggest interconnected walkway. You can see there's a walkway here. You don't have to connect stuff during the game, but at the end of the game, you'll get walkways. And then there's points for whoever has the most statues in their garden. And that's pretty much the game. You're just going to be taking turns, moving your 3 workers back and forth. Now, I do want to point a couple things out. There are 4 types of trees. These are also endgame scoring, by the way, trees, having the number of different trees in a column. There are these beautiful purple trees. There are yellow trees. There are these red trees. And then there are these green palm trees. There's also other green trees in this game that mean absolutely nothing. And I got to point this out now because while this is a pretty game, and you can see here as I'm building this, it's going to look, like a pretty garden, if a little off because some of the stuff doesn't match. Like here I have a pathway going into a stream that doesn't really match, but you can do that over the course of the game. But it's easy to miss things, like that statue's a little hidden there. There's trees all over the place that mean nothing for the course of the game. So we found, every time I played this, we found that sometimes it was easy to get lost amongst, well, for better lack of term, the trees here. There are other ways to play where you can start with some stuff on your boards. There are special cards. Like I said, these come out. Nice that they sit in here. and there's different ways to score, but the game pretty much plays out the same way, no matter how you're doing it. Now, I mentioned the look of the game, and I think this is a really important part of the game because the game is kind of banking on this. The game itself is fine. There's some interesting things, but when you take a card, you only have so many places to place that card. So if I go first in a round, and let's say I'm playing a 4-player game, the maximum number you can play, there are 12 different cards I can pick from. Each card that I pick from can go in 2 different spots. So I have 24 choices on round 1. But on as at the end of round 1, when I'm taking my 3rd card, I often have 1 choice, maybe 2 choices to pick from, and again, it can only go in 1 of 2 different spots. Now that's fine. That gives you choices, but your choices do go down dramatically. And I don't know that the choices are particularly engaging because you'll look and you'll say, okay, this stream matches a stream. I'll go for points there. This is the same tree I already have in this row, or a different tree I already have in this row, or a bench gives me a lot of points. And the points do seem to balance out. In the beginning, I thought, wow, benches are a lot of points. As you place them, you're scoring 6 points sometimes, 7, 8 points for placing a bench on the board. But at the end of the game, it's the tree. The trees are easily the most powerful thing to get. Getting a lot of the same and a lot of different in the same row seems really well done. But you can change up the scoring and all that. But the game is pretty, like I said, and as I mentioned, it's a little obfuscated by all those different trees and things, and I found that to be less than ideal. I like how the game looks, but it has kind of this mishmash of, well, this path just goes into a stream, which doesn't work, and stuff on the board that's kind of extra. And I mean, I'm glad there's extra stuff. I don't want it to just be a bunch of trees that don't, or fountains or benches that are hard to, there's no beauty behind that. But the other stuff kind of gets in the way. And that's where I think it runs into a problem. And when you couple that with a game that is peaceful, so, we often talk about games that are peaceful like Tokaido and things like that. This game has that peaceful feel to it. There's a little bit of you took the card I want, but not a lot. And you take the card, you move your person, you score some points. But there wasn't enough of a hook for me to go, woo, when I was playing this. This, to me, is a 6 out of 10. It's a game that I had an okay time playing. It was interesting. It went about the length, maybe a smidge longer than I want, but not too bad. It seems to scale well because I think 3 might be the best player count, but with 2, you have more choices in a 2-player game because you're picking 2 cards out of the row rather than 4. But I don't know. I feel like in a year or 2 years, I'm going to struggle to remember what the game was about. I'll be like, you were playing cards down and you scored points, but that was about it. Now, there's a lot of games that have scoring points, and this one has, some of the basic stuff. Hey, get a bunch of the same, get a bunch of different, surround stuff, connect roads. So I don't mind that because there's a lot of games I really love that have some also very basic scoring. But then the hook of the game, which is take a card and put it on either side and move a person, that's not particularly engaging either. So the whole thing comes across as nice. Nice. Hey guys, I met a nice game the other day. But it's not the kind of game that I want to keep around for a long time. So it's interesting. If you like the actual gardens in Sydney, maybe this will have more special meaning to you. But there's so many games out on the market right now, I don't know that this one stands above them at all. So that's the Gardens. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.